Got something for you ladies.
You're my Honeybunch sugar plum, pumpkin, pumpkin. You're my sweetie pie. You're my Cuppycake gumdrop, snickles, buckums. You're the apple of my eye, and I love you so. And I want you to know that I'll always be right here. And I love to sing your songs to you because you are so dear.
That is so sweet.
Did I forget to tell you guys to be sure and bring your favorite flower, your favorite picture, some tissues, and be sure you have on your mom robe? No, yeah, I forgot. Oh,
All
okay.
good.
Mine too, then.
However, I have my cow blanket, so that's got to count for something, right?
All right, cool. No, I used to sing. That was one of the songs I used to sing to my girls when they were little, and yeah, it's one that I still hold dear. I had it for my ringtone forever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I even have a little picture of my grandbaby sitting here with me. Of course, her pictures are all over my desk, but my sweets. I just thought that would be kind of a fun little intro.
Yeah, super cute.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to London Blue Presents. And tonight, London Blue presents The Art of Mothering. And I'd like to welcome all of my lovely guests who are mothers to share some stories and maybe give us some tips and advice. Kristen, would you like to start? Introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, how many children you have, and what their ages are.
Yeah. So I'm Kristen and I live in Tennessee. I have a daughter that is 8 years old. And I have a son that is 13.
Great. And Carol, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm Carol and I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I have two kids. I have a 17-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl.
Awesome. And Liv, would you like to go next?
Sure. My name is Olivia Hairston, affectionately called Liv. I am residing in Dunbar, West Virginia, and I have two kids, one boy, one girl. Kendrick is 8 and Kendall is 4.
So you got a little one too. And Miss Katie.
I'm in Greenville, South Carolina, and I say I have 13 kids because I fostered 10, but I have 3 kids that are mine that live with me now. They are 15 and 12 and 9.
Great. And I was hoping to get into a little more of the fostering and adoption process. And I feel like we're not going to be able to dive so deep into that I like to. So I'm going to ask Katie to come back on with me on another podcast to talk about fostering children and becoming an adoptive parent. So hopefully she can give us more input on that. And for those who are interested in that, stay tuned because she's going to give us tips and tricks on how to foster and adopt children, which is very, very much needed right now. Okay, so ladies, again, thank you all so much for joining me. I'm going to throw the questions out there and you guys can jump in and answer them however you want, whenever you want. And I'm going to let you all take over the conversation. So my first question is, let's address motherhood in general. Motherhood is one of the most beautiful roles that a person can ever take on. And let's just, for those who aren't mothers or who want to be mothers, share one short but very precious memory, something that you feel that makes motherhood beautiful that you will never forget. For me personally, it was that moment those babies were laid on my chest for the first time and the bathing them of the smell of baby bath and splashing in bubbles and to the first flower they handed me that was ever picked, goosebumps. And I started out our little cheesy promo with a flower in remembrance of my girls giving me their first flower. I actually have them pressed in a memories book. And actually, I think I put one of them in my Bible. But anyway, so share with me one or even a couple short memories that makes motherhood so precious to you.
I would say for me, there's a few things. One was bringing my kids home from the hospital because they're all three adopted, and so it was an extra special event of being able to go and get them, and then being allowed to leave with them. That was something that felt strange at the same time, and it was beautiful. And with my third one, getting to be able to be in the delivery room with her and cut the umbilical cord that's one of my best memories ever. And I would say just being a homeschool mom, I get to have that extra, like when they finally grasp the concept, that when they first started reading, when they first figured out 1 + 1 = 2, all those little aha moments where they get really excited that they have figured things out. I love being a part of that, and they're growing and just the way that they're changing. And even in the teenage years, which are the most challenging in my opinion, there's been a lot of, oh wait, I got to figure this out for myself. I've got to start having some common sense. I've got to put on my big curl pants and face these challenges. But I know I can go home and be safe with mom and dad. So I think that's the best part about being a mom, is just being their safe place.
That is so true. And that's a beautiful answer. And I love the way you mentioned witnessing, even as teenagers, them coming to the conclusion, oh, I'm almost an adult. I've got to step up my game, because my daughter just had that same conversation. I'm like, that's my girl. Who's next?
I guess I'll go. So I agree with Katie, 100%. Again, too, I have a 13-year-old son and 8-year-old daughter. And for me, my 13-year-old son still enjoys it when I tuck him in. So that for me is it's huge, because, you don't know when that's going to stop. So him always coming down, being like, hey, mom, I'm ready for bed. It's just like, I love it. With my daughter, she's Spitfire. She is stubborn and just independent. And for me, I think for her would definitely have to be the drawing, her artistic side. She loves drawing, and she gets so excited to just show me her new artwork and art things that she's drawn, like the eyes. Like, she's gotten really good at drawing eyes and the emotion in eyes. So I don't want it to stop.
That's cool. And she's capturing emotion in eyes already at her young age. That's amazing. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'll just tag on. I love all the stages. Like, it's I still love little kids, because I like 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds are so much fun. But it's been awesome to watch them grow up and figure things out themselves, and use their brains, and in different ways, and just seeing them figure things out. As people are always saying, it's great to see them becoming who they are, and figuring it all out themselves, and also still allowing me to be part of it, and to feel connected to them in little ways, smaller and smaller ways. But that's okay. It shows that things are going well.
I guess I'll take a little bit of a different direction. My childhood was really, really difficult. And when I wasn't supposed to be able to have children. So first of all, that's precious in itself, that I was able to give birth and grow tiny humans inside and be able to have them. And I always, it's no offense to my mom, but I always was like, I don't want to be like her, because I don't want to put on my children the things that I went through. And so I was really scared as a mom, becoming a mom. And so I don't discount what happened with my son. Obviously, I love both my children equally. But I actually had a natural water birth with my daughter, and my no drugs I went home to my own house, I breastfed my child, went in my own bed that same night. It was just the most liberating experience, and it really made me like see how beautiful women are and how powerful they are and how strong they are. And so being able to have that experience, because I had a hospital birth the first time, and I mean, it was all right. And first time moms, you guys know, I was terrified. It didn't matter how we had him, I was terrified. But I got to have her like that and experience every little piece. Like I had an epidural with my son and I had drugs with my son. So there's a lot that I don't remember. But with my daughter, I remember everything. I labored at home. I literally almost didn't make it to the birthing center. I almost had her in the car. And I remember my water breaking and being able to push and doing all those things instinctively with my own body and allowing my body to work for me and with me to push a child out and to have her. And I don't like that's something I'm never ever going to forget. Like it made me see just how strong I was outside of the day to day of being a mom. Like knowing that I could do that, there was just something about it that was like, okay, you're not going to tell me anything now. Like I can do anything at this point. I can soar, I can fly. And then of course, just to piggyback off of what the rest of you said, watching those phases. And my kids are 4 years apart, so they will never go to school together. In Dunbar, we have a split from K through 2 and then 3 through 5, and then it goes to middle and high school. So he's got a March birthday, she's got an October birthday. They will never be together. So their stages are very different. They're very different. My son is super shy, quiet, doesn't want to be bothered. My daughter is a hellion. She's just like her mom. She gets it honestly. She's loud, she's boisterous, she's crazy, and it's cool. But like I just love watching them grow and learn things and understand concepts in life. Like, I don't know, it just makes me proud to be their mom, but also proud to be the person that's been given the opportunity and the privilege to raise them and to show them what life has for them.
Awesome. That's an amazing story. And you mentioned about talking about the childbirth. Both of my girls, it was terrifying because my oldest daughter was, when she was born, she was 4'8", 4 pounds, 8 ounces. And my youngest daughter was 5 pounds, 4 ounces. So they were both really tiny babies. And both births, they both got wrapped up in their umbilical cords. And my oldest daughter, every time she was wrapped up in hers so tight that every time I'd have a contraction, they would actually lose, or her heartbeat would drop. I mean, they could literally, they were tracking it and her heartbeat would slow. And then with my youngest daughter, same thing had happened, but every time I'd have a contraction, they would just lose hers all completely. They just couldn't find it anymore. So it was terrifying, very terrifying. Which leads me actually to our next question. Yes, motherhood is beautiful. It is probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life, but it's also been the most heartbreaking and the most terrifying. And those were two events that absolutely terrified me. And they weren't even here yet. I had another incident where somebody had picked up my oldest daughter from school. The lady did not have my permission to pick her up from school, and she was like in first grade. And I was, coming to the school to get her. My kid was gone. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like tearing through the playground, tearing through the school classrooms. What is my daughter? Where'd you do with my kid? And then, well, we don't know. We can call the police. I said, yes, you need to call the police. You've lost my child. Well, as I started continuing to search for her, I found her walking home with another parent and her daughter. And I was like, what? She did not. And no, you may not. And you will never again. Oh, I was panicked. I mean, I was freaking out. So yes, being a mother is absolutely beautiful. And the best reward I've ever had in my life was looking at those little eyes and smiling back at me, and hugs and kisses and cards and sweet wishes. And look at that, poet and didn't know it. Anywho, yeah. So share with us some of your terrifying moments. And if it's something that was out of your control or something that was in your control, like out of my control was the whole birthing experience. I couldn't control that. in my control, the absence of the school, that it wasn't technically my, control, because they let her go home with somebody that I didn't get permission to. But maybe for a future tip for a young mom dropping kids off at elementary school, make sure the school knows that your child is not allowed to go home with anybody except you, unless you personally call and let them know that they can leave with someone else. So just a little tip on that. So do you all have any terrifying stories that, and maybe even accompany with a tip on how to prevent it for somebody else? Whoever wants to jump in and answer, go right ahead.
Yeah, I can. So for me, my daughter was born premature. She was born 2 months early. She weighed 3 pounds and 5 ounces, and she had to stay in the hospital for 7 weeks. And that was absolutely the most horrifying time. There were a couple times, because I was breastfeeding, I was pumping, and the hospital lost the breast milk a couple different times. So, when they would start to, introduce her to formula or whatever, her stomach kept expanding. And then they started talking about doing biopsies. And my husband's like, stop, no, we're not doing that, and he's a little more rational than I am, because I panic. And he's like, every time that this has happened, y'all have put her on formula. So come to find out, what it was that because they couldn't find the breast milk, they were giving her premature formula for preemies. And so they ended up putting her on a different formula, which was called Elementum. And then like 9 years ago, that was $30 a can. Yeah. And it worked. She didn't have any issues. So yeah, I think definitely that was probably the absolutely most horrifying time. And yeah, I mean, and then my son, his dad and I are not together. So we got divorced when he was really little. And because of things that were going on with me, I wasn't really stable at the time. So, I was like, best place that my son can be is with his dad, where he's stable. Years went by, and I was under the impression that he was being homeschooled. He had been out of school for 2 years, not being homeschooled, no form of schooling. So that not only terrified me with what was going on behind my back, it was like, he needs to be in school, luckily, my son lives with me. He's doing excellent in school now, but yeah.
Wow, the chills, literally. Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm glad he's home safe with you and doing well. Next.
Yeah, I have a few. Hilariously, I have a very similar story about my daughter disappearing. Turned out she was in the school building, but I'd already called the police and set off a person hunt, trying to find my daughter. She just had stayed late for a program that I wasn't aware of, and she was actually supposed to be there, but no one had told me, and she was very little, and she didn't know. But hilariously, yeah, the police were very, very concerned too. But also just general like behavior issues. My son, when he was in second grade, was getting into a lot of trouble, and just trying to figure out what we could do to help him to make sure that he was doing the right thing, and able to be successful in life when he was a tiny kid, and trying to figure out what we could do to help him at that point was really, really tough. And thankfully we had a really good school system. The school was excellent in trying to help us and help him and make a plan. And we were able to figure things out. And he's doing great now, but it was very scary at the time to try to, my husband and I disagreed on what to do even, and it wasn't clear what the right path was. So just, really difficult, challenging situations that no one necessarily tells you about, and there's no guidebook to tell you what to do. You just kind of have to take one day at a time and have faith that things will be figured out, that you'll, that there are better days ahead, but also supporting kids and family and everybody else. It's just a lot. Some days it's much more than one person can handle, for sure.
That's very true. And in situations, yeah, it can put a strain on a marriage, or it can put a strain even on an extended family. I know that, I've ran into behavioral issues with my girls when they were little, and I'm like, Mom, can you not tell me what to do? And she's like, no, honey,
Yeah,
I'm
that's the other
sorry.
piece. Yeah.
Parenting didn't come with a handbook back then, and it still doesn't now, but I can suggest things that you can try, and she was there to bounce ideas off of, but having that professional step in and say, okay, no, maybe we need to do an evaluation, maybe we need to, whatever. So yeah, and moms, don't be afraid out there. If you are having issues, whether it's behavioral issues or learning issues or whatever the case may be, even eating issues, if your child's not eating properly or what have you, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. That's a big thing. And don't count on your mom or grandma or aunt or spouse or whatever to have the answer. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask for professional help. It's okay, because we can't do it all on our own. Liv?
Sure. So you guys know, I already told you my daughter is a daredevil. It's probably been about a year at this point, but she was in the living room and she was hanging off of the couch, and our coffee table is right in front of the couch. And she fell off the couch and banged her head off the table. I think every kid has probably done something similar. Well, she kept screaming, and I'm like, okay, come here, let me hold you. Like, it's going to be okay. You don't have to be scared. And I pulled my hand back, and there was blood all over my hand. And I was like, what is going on? And of course, I'm a doctor of functional medicine. So, those instincts kicked in immediately. I was like, all right, where's the blood coming from? What are we doing? How are we going to stop it? And I thought it was from the back of her head. Well, it turns out it wasn't the back of her head. It was her ear, and she had torn it completely in half. It's about 12 to 13 minutes from my house to the hospital that she should be taken to. I made it there in about 6 minutes. I literally was like, come on. Because it was me. I think Dad was at football practice because he coaches high school football. So we were in the living room. I'm like, get your shoes. You don't even have to put them on. Just get in the car. I'm like throwing my son in the car. He's, very dutiful, like doing everything he needs to do. Try not to panic. I didn't even put her in a seatbelt. I held her in my arms and snapped my seatbelt over me and her and just floored it all the way to the hospital. And I get there and there's a line out the door and people, but my faith in humanity was restored because this woman helped me put all of our masks on because I didn't have the hands to put them on. So another mom was like right there helping. And this man went up front and he's like, hey, we have a bleeding kid. I don't know what's going on with everybody else, but they need help. I'm like, thank you so much. She had to have her ears sewn back together in the emergency room. It was probably the worst experience I've ever had because, of course, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? Was I not watching you enough? Like, this is all my fault. And of course, there's other moms and nurses that were moms that were there and they're like, things like this happen. And so that would be my tip, is to not be so hard on yourself when things happen to your kids, because things do happen that are completely out of your control. And as bad as it seems, it's usually not that bad. It could have been worse. It could have been her head. She could have had a concussion. She could have been knocked completely out. She just had a torn ear. She's got a nice, lovely scar that will be there for the rest of her life. And I think she knows now not to hang off the back of the couch.
And yes, that's a very, very good point. And we do, as moms, we do have a tendency to beat ourselves up over every little thing that goes wrong. You know, even if it's just like, oh, you forgot to invite one person in your kid's classroom to the birthday party, but it's your fault because your kid didn't give you their name because your kid didn't like them. And now you're getting, yeah, no, it's not your fault. It's okay. Take it easy on yourself. Katie.
I think I want to take it for the foster and adoptive moms out there, because I'm always trying to encourage, because I think nothing makes us cry out to God more than becoming a mom, no matter how you become a mom, because really our kids are out of our hands, and you know, we have to just trust them to him. But when you're a foster mom, there's like a whole nother level, because you also have another set of parents that you're dealing with. You also have you have caseworkers, you have red tape, you have all these things to deal with. And you're the one on the ground, and you're the ones dealing with these kids. And I had 5 kids at the time. My kids were little. And then I had 2 fosters. I had one who was a special needs little girl, and she was 4 when she came to us. And then I had a little boy who was 6. And so I had 5 under 6. I had 5 under 8 at that time. So it was a lot. And I went to the grocery store because we had nothing in the house. I had nothing for lunch. The week had fallen apart. I didn't have any other money for pizza or anything like that. So I said, everybody load up. We're going to Aldi. And I put them all in the cart, and things were going really well until the little boy wanted something on the bottom shelf that was like candy or cookies or something that was not in my budget that I could not afford. And I said, no, we're not getting that today. And he had anger issues that the caseworker had not revealed to us. There was a lot of backstory with him that came out in my conversation with him. And he actually ended up having to go to a special needs home in the end because of his problems. But at the time, I'm just at the grocery store trying to make it with 5 kids. And he took off running. And he was running out the front of the store. And we were at the back of the store. And there were people everywhere. And not a single person bothered to help me. Nobody thought I should stop this kid. And I had the cart with 3 kids in it, and I'm running through the store, and I'm telling my other kids to run after me, and I'm plowing through. And my daughter, 8 at the time, jumps through the air and tackles him and throws herself down and saves the day. And I was so mad. I was like, get over here now. And I was so upset because everybody was staring at us. Nobody was offering help. It was obvious that I was really struggling, and there wasn't anybody to help me. And I talked, so I had to call his caseworker and talk to her about it and tell her what happened. And I said, what should I have done? Because here I have these other little kids. I couldn't leave the shopping cart. I had kids in the shopping cart. And she's like, you would have had to have just let him run out. And I said, but this is on a busy road. This was on a highway. She's like, you would have had to let him go and call the police. And I said, he's 6. You wanted me to let him run out of the store into oncoming traffic. You've lost your mind. And so it was that I was like, there is such a need for the community to come around us mamas, not just foster moms and not just adoptive moms, all of us mamas. You know, there was another day that I was shopping at the same store, and it was another bad day, and I didn't have 5 kids then, but I had my 3. And she just came up to me and just said, and one of my kids was having a fit, and she came over and said, you're doing a great job. And that completely turned my day around. And I think that like we need to be like encouraging mothers instead of condemning them, instead of assuming that the kids are acting up because we don't discipline them correctly, because it's sure as fire looked like I was not disciplining that 6-year-old boy. But I also didn't have the normal ability to discipline him. I had to meet him where he was, and I had to deal with issues that he had, and I couldn't just put him in his room and tell him to calm down. There were other issues. So if somebody had just wrapped their arms around me at that point and said, hey, I see what you're doing great. Here, let me buy your groceries. Or here, kids, let me buy that bag of cookies, whatever, just something to encourage me. And so, like, I want to encourage other moms, like, you're doing a great job. If you are loving your kids and you are doing your best, I know that there are people out there who make bad choices, but if you're really out there because you love your kids and you want what's best for them, then you're doing a great job. And that's all you need to know.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. And I've ran into the same issues, the kids acting up in the store and everybody's staring, and you automatically feel everybody's eyes burning holes through your body because you're not disciplining your children. Okay, if I spank them in public, then you're going to call CPS on me. If I don't spank them, then I'm not disciplining them. How am I going to put them in timeout, dragging them through a grocery store? I can't put them in the buggy because my buggy's full of groceries that I can't really afford. Yeah, I get that. I get all of that. So how do you discipline a child in the middle of a grocery store when you're pulling on another child, or in your case, 4 other kids? When do people step up and help? And luckily I have had the same experience where my little one was throwing a temper tantrum in the store, and my oldest was trying to run off. So I was trying to keep a hold of her and try to get this one to calm down and still get in line, for the checkout. And an old man came up and started playing with my youngest in the cart. And, he didn't touch her. He didn't get too close. He kept his distance, so he wasn't anything that was scary. He kept his distance and was just like, what are you fussing about, little girl? And yada, yada. It startled her enough to get her attention to where I could grab a hold of my oldest daughter and get her back over to the buggy. So yes, even just talking to a screaming child can sometimes give that mom that 30-second break that she needs to grab her other kid or just to cool herself. Yes, supporting moms is huge. And even dads in that case, in that matter, if you see a dad struggling with kids in a grocery store, it wouldn't hurt to, step in and just talk to the child and say, what are you fussing for? What's the matter? Or, just try to catch their break off of their focus of their temper tantrum. And yes, as a foster or an adoptive parent, I can imagine that you do have double the fear as the regular parents because, well, even triple the fear because yes, you have CPS. That's always going to be, for the home visits to make sure that your child, you're providing the home you're promised and yada, yada. So you're not just answering to other parents or authorities or school systems, but you're having to answer to the caseworkers and the parents of the actual child you're fostering or so forth. So I can imagine you feel a lot more strain than average Joe or than average mom. So more power to you, girl. I don't know how you do it. On a lighter note, though, I got to tell you, let's uplift this conversation a little bit. Let's go in a little more happy tone. I don't know about you guys, but my kids are probably some of the best comedians that I have ever seen in my life. Those kids, they have made me angrier than fire, and they have made me laugh until I peed my pants. What are some of the funny stories that your kids have done that, that really got you laughing and you're still laughing about today? And again, my story ties right into the whole grocery store experiences when my ladybug was maybe, I don't know, 14 months to 18 months. She was really little. She was still riding in the front. She was still in diapers. And busy mom, grocery. I'm trying to get checked out so I can get back to the school to pick my oldest daughter up. And, I'm bagging, you're grabbing this and grabbing that. And the little cashier looks up at me. She says, ma'am, she said, that's adorable, but I don't know how much it costs. And I look back and here comes my ladybug riding the conveyor belt down the grocery along with the groceries. She climbed out of the buggy and was on the conveyor belt and was riding down along with the groceries. The cashier was like, ma'am, she's adorable, but I don't know how much to charge you for that. So yeah, do you guys have any funny stories that your kids keep you laughing even today that they did back then?
Yeah, so my daughter and my son, my daughter and I are both petrified of frogs. Petrified. And we were getting ready for a trip one year, and I want to say my daughter was probably about 3. And she's helping, she's tugging along, my son's helping, and he put a frog on top of my daughter's head. And it stayed on her head from the end of the driveway all the way to the door of the apartment, and freaking out. And she wet herself. He was laughing so hard that he was just like beet red, and I almost wet myself too from laughing. And it's still something that we laugh about today.
Oh yeah, that's funny. It's not funny, but that's funny. Not funny for your daughter, but yeah. Next.
Well, my daughter my youngest, has the biggest hair you will ever see. I always say that, like, when she was a baby, she would crawl into the room, her hair would come in first, and then you would see the rest of her because there is so much hair. So when she was little, I would put it up in the little pom-poms, on the sides, the two on the sides of her head, or else I would pull it up into one big thing on top. And when she was about, I guess she was like 2 or something, we had gone out to eat like for lunch that day to McDonald's. And we'd been several hours, and it was bath time and ready for bed. And I'm washing her hair, and a big chicken nugget fell out into the bathtub. And she had stuffed it up there to eat for later, and she had so much hair, it just stayed there, and nobody even knew that it was in there. And to this day, we still tease her and say, did you think I wasn't going to feed you later? What were you worried about?
Oh, she's just saving it for later, Mom.
And if I had skipped her bath that night, I don't know how long that chicken nugget would have lasted.
So we are very anatomically correct over here, and a lot of our conversations take place at the dinner table. And I always say with my kids, it's like they've been here before or something, because they will just blurt out things, and you're like, how do you even know what you're talking about? And it comes at the right time, it's in the right context, and we're just like, okay. And when they get together, they're 2 little comedians, and they're always giggling and laughing. So one time we're sitting at the table, and for whatever reason, my daughter was like, who in here has a man? And I'm like, girl, nobody in here better have a man but me. Like, y'all too young to be talking about that. And she looks at me dead in my face and says, he ain't your man, he's my daddy. And I looked at her and I said, Kendall, how do you think you got here? I drove. And I'm like, you know what? I can't even with you anymore. And then all of a sudden, of course, with kids, my son's like, no, you came out of mommy's butt. And I'm like, son, that's not how this works. And Kendall was like, it's a belly. And I'm like, actually, it's a uterus. And Kendrick just screams out, uteruses. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it's uteri, but that's cool. And like, we all still laugh about this story to this day. I text their uncle, my brother, and I was just like, listen to your niece and nephew and the crazy stuff that they have come out of their mouth. And I will tell you, it's like that around here all the time. You will hear them say something crazy just like that. But for me, it was that I drove. How do you think you got here? I drove. Your power wheel? Okay. All right.
That's hysterical. And I'm glad that you're one of the moms that believe in telling your kids the truth. Because my kids are 4 years apart too. And when I got pregnant with my youngest, my oldest, she was 4, she started asking questions. And I didn't go into vulgar details, but I gave her the basics. I'm glad that we've gotten to that we've become a generation that we've grown enough, that we're mature enough, and we're confident and secure enough with ourselves and our relationships with our children to be upfront and honest with them. And that's one thing that I always said is I always believed if my children had questions, I'm going to give them the correct answers, no matter how inappropriate I think it may be for their age. If they're asking it, then somebody's already mentioned it to them. So I want to make sure they're getting the right answers, the correct answers from me, because if they're already asking the questions, if I don't answer them, somebody else will. That's always been my theory. So I agree with you 100% in being upfront and honest with your children. Next.
Yeah, I can't think of any specific that aren't long stories. But certainly we have just really silly conversations on similar topics and a wide variety, politics and everything else. The kids often are correcting us or helping us understand the way things are now, which is always hilarious and fun. And thankfully they're both good natured, and they have their moments when they're getting into each other a little more than they need to. But for the most part, it's always fun to hear their perspectives on things, even if wow, some of their sources are questionable, but we can all Google things now, so one of us will find the actual answer, and usually it's fun to get to the real story, because we also really want to make sure that we're all understand there's things you can find on the internet, and then there's facts and the difference and all that.
And I remember a couple of times my kids have corrected me on certain things. And at first I got a little defensive because I'm thinking, no, I'm the mother. I'm supposed to be teaching you. And then I thought, no, I'm the new age mom. I am going to be open-minded and have an open conversation with my children. And I want them to teach me if they know something I don't. I want them to share with me as much as I want them to learn from me. So vice versa. Yeah. Okay. Well, enough about our littles for right now, but let's give back to some other moms. So give us your best advice for new mothers, for those first time moms who are still loving the baby fresh smell and the poo diapers that aren't quite running and dragging across the floor in the car or down your leg, the really sweet little newborn babies, those moms. What advice do you have for them?
One of the first things that I told my sister-in-law, because my nephew is almost 10 months, I think now, and it's one of the biggest things that I learned was to obviously take the time that you need for yourself. But when you're able to get back out there and do things that you like, so for instance, if you're somebody that likes to be in nature, set your life up that way so that your kids become a part of that, so that you don't have to give up those pieces of yourself. So if you like grounding, take your kid outside for a tummy time on a blanket with you if the weather's warm. If you like hiking, find a way to take them with you. If you like getting all dolled up, there are plenty of times that I've had Kendall sitting right here, like either in a high chair or wearing her while I'm doing that, because I learned with my first child, I completely let myself go. And I don't just mean that in respects of the way that I look. I also stopped doing all of the things that I enjoyed because I felt like my sole responsibility, like we all do, was to my son. And I don't regret that. I enjoy all of the time that I spent with him. But when I had my second child, I finally was like, wait a minute, I still like makeup. I still like to have girls' night. So now our kids are older, but we have girls' night at my house. I have an enclosed deck outside. My downstairs is supposed to be the man cave, but it's long since been toys everywhere. But the moms go outside and we have our wine and we listen to our music, and the kids go downstairs and they wreck it and we don't care, and everybody's happy. And so that's always my biggest tip for new moms, is to just make sure that if there are things that you enjoy, like painting, hiking, being one with nature, take those things in and make your kids a part of that. If you want to travel with your kids. Don't give up those things just because you became a mom. It's very easy for society to make you believe that you have to, and you don't. You can still be mobile, you can still love life, and you can do that even better now with your kids and show them these things so that they can learn if they like them too.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that 100%. Yeah, I was working through my first pregnancy and went back to work 6 weeks later, and that's not something everyone wants to do, but I did. I wanted to get back to work. I was not happy or wanting to be a stay-at-home parent. My husband thankfully was, and so he stayed home with my son, and I went back to work, and I was very, very happy about that. And you got to figure out, what makes you happy and what makes you feeds you, your brain, your heart, whatever it is, because I do believe that makes you a better parent. I think if you're starving yourself or limiting yourself, you're not going to be happy, and that unfortunately is not going to make for a happy parenting situation. So, figuring out what really makes you happy, who your comforting, helpful, supportive friends are, and spending time with those individuals, with or without the child. If you have to or want to leave the child behind, sometimes that is fine too. But definitely bringing them with you can be even better. I tried running with the kids in the carrier, and that really did not work very well. That's hard, but some people do it.
That's great advice, guys. And I wished I had talked to you all 23 years ago when I had my first kid, because I did exactly what you all are saying not to do. I literally put myself 100% into just my marriage and just raising my babies, and I did that for so many years that I lost myself and ended up in a divorce. And yeah, I'm sure the kids weren't happy all the time, but I did my best. I still tried to focus on them 100%, and maybe that's the problem, because I didn't focus enough on me. So I wasn't happy, so it kind of came out on them sometimes too. So that's really good advice. Thank you all for sharing that. Who would like to go next? Best advice for new moms.
So I can. I agree with everything that y'all have said, because even with my first, I was strictly, it was all about my son. It was all about staying home. It was my marriage. My life literally resolved around my son. And, after the divorce, and then having my daughter and getting married again. And, it's like, I realized that, you are your own person. You have got to live your life for you as well. Your kids are very important, but if you do not take the time to focus on you as well, how are you supposed to be there for your children? So, like Liz said, me and my husband, we have lots of get-togethers where our friends will come over, they'll bring their children, and they go out and play and jump on the trampoline, and we have drinks, we have Jello shots, we listen to music, we play Cards Against Humanity. We have fun, but at the same time, we're also there for the kids. And I don't hide the fact that I have fun or that I drink occasionally. I never get out of control, because that's something I don't want my kids to see. But I also don't want to keep it hidden. I want them to know, it's okay when you're of age. It's okay to drink. I don't want to shell shock them. But I include them. I love being on the river and everything. So, I take both of the kids out kayaking, and my daughter's been kayaking with me since before she turned a year old. So, it's definitely, don't forget yourself, do stuff for you, go spend time with your friends. And then always go with your gut feeling. You know, these kids don't come with manuals, sadly. But, you know, go with your gut feeling, and, you know, people and family are going to tell you what they think is best. And I think it's important to, you know, yeah, listen to them, but, you know, take what you feel is important to you. You know, you are the ones raising your babies. And it's important for you to find what works for you. And just be open with your babies, you know, at, you know, very early on, you know, age appropriate, of course. But, you know, be open with them, be honest about whatever. So.
I would say, to building on that, to accept help from everybody. I think like when you're a new mom, it's really hard to trust anybody else with your baby, and to not have like this guilt that you want to actually be away from your baby for a little bit. It's okay. It's not normal for people to want to always be attached to each other. I think, you know, we're individuals, and God created us each to be unique, and we have unique likes and needs and wants. And I think it's really important for us to still have that time. So whether you have a church with ladies in it that are willing to babysit, or you have a community, or you have, you know, your family members, somebody, there has to be somebody in your life who you can trust and say, okay, I need a break. Or, you know what, I need to spend more time with my baby. Can you come and wash the dishes for me? Can you come and do my laundry? You know, we're so worried about what other people are going to be thinking about us, and we're not taking advantage of the fact that people do want to help. They do want to love on us. And I think that's how we get burned out, because we're trying to do it all, and we're not meant to do it all. We're meant to lean on each other. And I would say, you know, just, you know, take a deep breath and stop looking around you. The comparison war is big, especially with social media. And I think when you have a new baby, I think it's easy to fall into the social media trap, because you got a lot of downtime where you can't like go anywhere. And so you might be feeding the baby and you're on your phone, and you see all these people who seem to have it together, and you're looking around and there's dirty diapers falling out of the diaper pail, and the babies just spit up down you and all down your back, and they just exploded out their diaper. And you're seeing, you know, somebody whose kids are in bows and wrapped up ready for Easter Sunday. You know, these are not realistic pictures of what motherhood is actually like, and people are not going to put realistic pictures out there. And so we need to stop comparing ourselves to other moms, and just be who God created us to be. He created us to be this child's mom. Nobody else could be this child's mother, because this is our baby. This is my child. And even if you're an adoptive mom, I think like that's something to easily fall into that trap of, well, somebody else could have adopted this child. But no, I was chosen. I was selected for this baby, and this is my kid. And I think if we could just step back a little bit and give ourselves a break, that's the best way to be healthy as moms.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, you all were talking about, you're not meant to be attached to somebody all the time. And trust me, new moms, you really don't want to let go of them right now, when they're so small and cute and smell so good and so soft and cuddly. But let me tell you, there will be the time when you want them to let go of you, at least long enough so you can use the bathroom with the door closed, or take a shower and be able to get through an entire shower, get out and get clothes on before the door swings open, with one or two kids or a dog and a cat following behind them. And who knows, maybe even a significant other. Did you see where they're in the shower at my feet? Can you get them, please? Yeah, it's okay to ask for help. Because honestly, if you don't, then you're going to lose your sanity. Because yes, one person is not supposed to do it all by themselves. And yeah, I divorced when my girls were still young. So I did the single mom thing for a while, and it's hard. It's hard to do it on your own. Moving on. That was our best advice for new moms. Oh, and something else, new moms. I do have a grandbaby who's 2. And my daughter has taught me something. Of course, doesn't do me any good now because I'm way too old for having babies. But for advice for you new moms, and Dr. Liv may be able to contest a part of this, that breast milk can be used for so many wonderful things. I've been told that it helps with the soreness when you're nursing. It helps with actually rashes. It helps with cradle cap. Supposedly breast milk is like the miracle cure for all. So, and breast milk is so precious. So be sure, even if you're not nursing, go ahead and pump a little bit. You pump a lot. And number one, it'll make you feel better right after birth. Number one, it'll help relieve you. You got to relieve that. Save the milk. If you're not going to breastfeed, if you're not going to nurse, save the milk, because it does come in handy for other uses.
And
Or
you can
donate.
donate it to one of the milk banks.
Absolutely.
One of my friends runs the one here in Pittsburgh, and they can always use more milk.
Absolutely. So that would be my tip for new moms. Check in to see what all you can do with breast milk. And if you're not going to nurse, please be sure to still pump, freeze it for your own use. And if you can't, if you don't want to do that, yes, absolutely. Donate it to moms who need the help, or maybe even adoptive moms who want to give their newborn babies breast milk and didn't actually give birth, and they have a newborn that they want to breastfeed. So, or, to have breast milk. Anywho, so all that aside, going on to our next question. These are for those cantankerous teenagers, or maybe even 8-ish and up. Those stubborn little sweethearts that you can't get them to do what you want them to do, whether it be clean their room, do their chores, homework. What are your best tips or tricks to get those stubborn sweeties to do what they're supposed to do around the house, such as homework or chores?
Yeah, so for me, my 13-year-old is severely OCD. So honestly, like, you could probably do surgery in his room, no lie. He does his homework without question, he's great. 8-year-old is she was actually diagnosed with ADD, ADHD last year, and was actually almost failing first grade. Anyway, so homework was a struggle with her. However, I found out that if you do it in small portions, because what they typically do is give a pack, a few sheets, and you turn it in on Friday. So, do, like maybe a page one day, do a few problems the next day, whatever. Let them scroll through the pages of homework that they have and let them pick something, and, I'm always like, grab a snack, you want a little thing of ice cream to do homework with, okay. And I've noticed that helps. And of course, it's never a large quantity where it will mess up with their dinner or anything. Chores. My daughter loves playing video games and loves Roblox. So chores, it's like, hey, do you want to help? We don't give her like crazy, unachievable chores. Something, like filling her basket up with her dirty clothes, and putting it by the wash. Why don't you help mom or dad with something? And typically, I will help her with her room because it's, yeah. But chores wise, giving her the money for Roblox points, or get her a little gift card with like $5 or $10 on it for a game that is digital for her game system, stuff like that, or letting her choose, to go buy some of the little press-on nails that kids like nowadays, or just giving them some options, as a reward for like being able to get the chores done, but they have to have it done within that week. And if you miss a day, then you're just out of luck. Sorry. But I'll take you to get ice cream. But it won't be anything that they are like extremely excited about. So I've noticed that seems to work.
Yeah, on the rewards front, I did that for a while when my kids were got to where they could do chores. We did a little chore chart on the refrigerator, and that worked for, I don't know, maybe 6 to 9 months, where they had their own chores, and they would check off when they did it, and at the end of the week they would get something special. But one in particular, one of them was having trouble with reading and spelling, and she had just learned to ride her bike without training wheels. So she was all about wanting to go ride her bike. So I had made a deal with her that when she get her spelling words, that they'd give them out usually like on Monday or Tuesday, and then the spelling test would be the end of the week. So what we would do is every day when it was pretty enough outside, for every word that she could spell correctly, she could ride 1 block, and I'd walk with her. So she'd spell 1 word, she'd get to ride a block, she'd have stop. We'd stop, I'd give her another word. If she could spell it correctly, we'd go another block, and she'd go another block, and we'd stop, and she'd have to spell another one. And when if she'd miss a word, then she'd have to turn around and go back home. And she'd get one more chance. If she missed it again, she'd have to keep going back home. So until that gave her a chance to get outside, 1, get exercise, 2, practice her spelling, 3. And then on the spelling test, obviously, if she did well, then, I would bake her favorite dinner or something special. I didn't do as much as candy and treats and stuff as rewards, because, I was a single mom for a long time and money was tight. So, and being, money was tight, so I didn't have time or didn't have the money for all the junk food and stuff. And I didn't want to eat all the junk food, but I did. One thing that was very precious was my time, because I was trying to take care of 2 young girls on my own. And I'm sure other people can relate to this. Time is precious. And Carol, you were working full time out of the house. So time with you was precious too. And so that's what they would get. If they would get rewards, then they would get X amount of time, depending on what they won or what they achieved. They would get X amount of time, X amount of minutes with just me. And I would do whatever they wanted to do, whether it was go on a walk, ride bikes, read a book, go for a swim. We were blessed with a little above ground swimming pool. They wanted to swim with me for a half hour. Then I'd go out and get my swimsuit on and I'd go swim with them for a half hour. They would get X amount of minutes of my time with just them, and they could pick whatever we did. And that seemed to work out really well, especially more so with my youngest than my oldest. But that worked out real well for a long time.
I'm more on the you live in my house, so you have chores to do kind of parent. They take turns. Each week there's a day where we do our chores, and they are required to choose 2 rooms in the house that they have to do. But I do go back because I figured out that it was overwhelming them, and they would look at a room and they would think that looks great. And I would go in the room and I'd go, well, did you even dust that those shelves over there? There's cobwebs. Or, my son's the worst one because he does have ADHD and he really struggles to see the details. So, so for me, it's a time, like I have to be patient, and it's a time for me to go and teach him, hey, okay, let's look at this area. Look at your bed. Are you missing a sheet on your bed? That's not how a bed is made, you know? So like trying to walk them through rather than just giving them the overwhelming assignment of, I want you to go clean your room, trying to like focus a little bit more and say, I want you to go make your bed. So I want you to go put your sheets on your bed. I want you to put your comforter on your bed, and then come get me and I'll check it and see if it's okay. And, you know, even my youngest, she'll think as long as you can't see it, it's properly put away. So she tends to stuff things in corners and stuff like that. So I have to be like really focused on, okay, that's not really clean. And the reason it's not really clean is because if you pile this stuff up, if you pile up your trash here, you're going to attract bugs. You're going to attract, this is not the way to live. It's not good for you to live like this. So let's make a plan here. So just trying to like help them if it's their turn to unload the dishwasher. Okay, we got to dry the dishes. Let's put the plates away here. You know, and that takes longer, and it takes me being more patient, and it's something that I'm working on. But I do think we got to give them the ability to be independent and trust them to help as members of our household and members, you know, my room's clean all the time. I don't know what happens in their rooms, but my room's clean. So my bed is made. So just trying to teach them like, hey guys, let's start the day off by making our beds. Okay, now let's do this and do it. I think that's just part of parenting, and just trying to help them along the way, and then and showing them that tasks can be done right, and they can be done quickly, and we can move on with our day. It doesn't have to take us all day long to do these chores. And I try to not make it like chores are every day kind of thing. I focus on one day of the week, and I say, okay, we're going to do this today. Let's get this done, and then we can go on and we can go do something fun as a family.
So you do a lot. You really, your theory is really a lot like Kristen's about, you know, taking it in small steps. You know, don't say just go clean your room or do all of your homework. Let's do one page, or let's make the bed, or let's and yeah, I wished I would have implemented that theory. I like that. Again, I wished I'd have talked to you guys years and years ago. Oh, and you were talking about hiding things. If it's out of sight, it's clean. Yeah, my youngest used to sneak honey buns out of the kitchen, and she'd take them into the bathroom and eat them. And she would literally hide the wrapper behind the toilet instead of throwing it in the trash can, because if I saw it in the trash can, she was going to know, mom's going to know that she snuck a honey bun before dinner. So she would hide the wrapper behind the toilet. So that's funny that you brought up. If it's out of sight, it's clean, right?
You would be surprised how many candy wrappers I find in the laundry.
Okay,
Yeah.
next.
Yeah, and it's funny 'cause I actually we also have a household with ADHD. Both of my kids were diagnosed, and then I myself was diagnosed, which explained a lot. And so when they were quite young, I decided to just ignore the rooms. They do what they want. Sometimes if it's really out of control, I actually help them organize their rooms, and I bought just plastic bins to shove things into, just to make it more, you know, less messy anyway, and less dust covered. But they each are responsible for some of the pet care and bathrooms and things like that. But definitely breaking things down, I totally agree. It makes it much more approachable and more likely to be done as well, which helps us all. But it's a really it's always a continuous problem, and we certainly do not have a show home, but that's not that important to me either. So let some things go in favor of having a more peaceful and happy household, which may not be ideal, but it works.
I won't lie to you. The reason I wanted to go last is because I am really struggling with this right now. So I want to take notes. I'm the one who's ADHD actually, and I'm extremely OCD. So if it is not cleanly to my standard, it drives me absolutely batty. And I'm really trying because of what I went through in my childhood to do gentle parenting. Carol, I love the just let them do, with rooms, whatever. And like if it's out of control, yes, help them do it. But like my kids are so different. Prime example, Kendall, I can go with you on the honey bun because she sneaks stuff into her room all the time. I'll go to clean the room and find wrappers everywhere. And I'm like, why don't you just tell somebody what you want instead of going and stealing it out of the kitchen? Like, I'm not gonna be crazy mad at you. I might tell you no sometimes, but like you don't have to do that. So I'm really struggling with this. I grew up in a yelling household, and if I cannot regulate, I yell, and I'm really trying to like move away from that. And so it's just been a breath of fresh air to number one, know that there are other moms that are dealing with this the same way, but I also find that it's extremely beautiful that all of you deal with this in a different way. So I appreciate your responses. I don't have much advice because, like I said, it's the struggle bus over here right now with the 8 and the 4. So I'm just going to take your all's notes and I'm going to try some of these things because I think they might really work for us.
Awesome. Well, my next question, I'm not so sure that any of you guys are really going to be able to answer this one. My next question, like I said, my youngest is 17, and actually she's only going to be 17 for that we're recording this on a different day. It's going to go actually live. So we'll just say in about 2 weeks, she'll be 17 for another 2 weeks. So and she's about to graduate. My oldest has already moved out and gave me a grandbaby. And yeah, so my next question was, what is your best advice for moms facing empty nest syndrome? Okay, and that's the thing, because that's what I'm facing, the empty nest syndrome. And I'm having a really hard time dealing with it, guys. I'm telling you, because I always was that very attached mother. I was that stay-at-home mom. I was that, guys, I mean, look, I was so attached to my kids. I volunteered to do their yearbook all through elementary school. I did their yearbook every year in elementary school, just so I would have an excuse to be at the school for every event, because I do the yearbook. I got to be there for Valentine's party. I've got to be there for the Halloween party. I've got to be there for the birthday lunches. I got to be there for the Olympic days. I mean, I've got to be there for all the special cool stuff because I'm taking pictures for the yearbook. I'm a very attached person. I'm more attached to them than they are of me. I'm the one having the attachment anxiety. So yeah, for me and maybe other moms, when you come to cross this path of your last baby leaving the house, moving out, how do you think you're going to handle it? What do you think you can do? I mean, I've tried doing the whole, well, let's have family dinner at least once a month. Make sure the youngest is home, bring the oldest back home, bring your husband, your kid, the boyfriend. I want everybody in the house once a month for family dinner. That didn't work out. I tried it a couple of times. Nobody really showed up. The last time I tried it, the oldest daughter and the grandbaby were here, and my youngest daughter was here. And yeah, I think the youngest daughter's boyfriend was here, but then he had a headache and had to go home and had to leave early. So yeah, I don't know. How do I keep them together at least once a month? How do I get them back in my life at least for an hour or so? What's your best advice, guys? Help me out.
So I'm not quite there yet, considering my kids are only 8 and 13, but I don't know, fake your death. Yeah, a mental breakdown issue, problem. Yeah, I don't know.
That one would probably be believable. They'd probably believe that one.
I wouldn't say stroke because that could definitely, that's not something to really joke about, but yeah, I don't know. Get a puppy, get a hobby.
Well, it's one reason I've been throwing myself so much into my writing and trying to focus on my books and stuff. Because I knew this was coming, and at least if I had my writing, I had something something to look forward to. But yeah,
That's
although
funny.
I like a quiet house when I'm writing, but I don't like a quiet house. I just don't. I'm good for about 10 minutes, and then I'm like, okay, is the neighbor's home, or where's the dog? Is somebody make some noise, please?
I think like just observing. I'm kind of like you. I'm an attached mom. I mean I work from home. I homeschool my kids. They don't go very many places without me. So I really struggle when they do. I mean, my youngest was at her friend's sleepover this weekend, and I about lost my mind waiting for her to come home. So I'm going to be a basket case. I already know that. Just even letting my 15-year-old has just been so good. Do we need to say goodbye to Carol?
Yeah. Carol's gonna have to take off.
I didn't mean to
Carol,
interrupt. I'm sorry.
no,
Yeah.
that's fine. That's fine. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for your time and your advice. And when we give you the rest of the questions, if you have any answers you want to add to our conversation, we can post them in the links, or when I post the video, if you could go in and maybe post your
Yeah,
comments
that would be cool.
on the
Yeah,
video,
definitely
that would
tag
be
me.
cool.
Yeah, it's been nice
Awesome.
meeting you all. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much, Carol, for being on. Appreciate you.
Take care. Good to see you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, guys. So we've decided to take a little break, and we will be right back. So don't go away.